Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you would join us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends, your kids' teachers, principals, and librarian about the show. And please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Our guests today are Dr. Susan Kumar and Spencer Walker. They are the co-authors of But Why Do I Have to Get Vaccinated? Before we invite Dr. Susan and Spencer into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by The Adventures of Harry and Friends, the delightful picture book series written by Sarah Belisa Tucker. Does your child throw frequent tantrums? Do they have to win at everything they try? I Quit is a hugely popular book with parents now experiencing that same thing. I Quit is book 6 in the Adventure of Harry and Friends season. The entire series of 7 books, it would be a wonderful addition to any family library. You can find your copies on Amazon and check out theadventuresofharryandfriends.com. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by A is for Always, an adoption alphabet, written by Linda Cutting. A is for Always, with your hand in mind. Adoption's a gift that will last for all time. With gentle rhymes and lovely illustrations, A is for Always celebrates the joy and love of adoption. From A to Z, with B for birth parents, Q for questions, and U for understanding. It frames challenging aspects of adoption in a way children can understand. Best of all, each page shows a different adopted family of cuddly animals welcoming and cherishing a new child. This is a beautiful book. It deserves a place on your family library. A is for Always, an adoption alphabet by Linda Cutting. Join us right now are the co-authors of really I think important book for kids. It's called But Why Do I Have to Get Vaccinated? Please welcome to the show from Los Angeles, Spencer Walker. Hey, Spencer, how are you?
Hey, Jed. Thanks for having me on.
I'm excited to have you on. I'm also excited to have your co-author on, coming to us from India, Susan Kumar. Hey, Susan, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
You know, Susan, I think it is just amazing. We are living in a time where technology allows me to sit here in Boston, Massachusetts, in the northeast of the United States, and speak to Spencer on the other side of this continent and speak to you halfway around the world. And we're also living in a time where the medical field can come up with vaccines to protect us from some really gnarly and dangerous diseases.
Yes.
Yeah, it is an amazing time we're living in. Can you tell us, Susan, a little bit about why do I have to have a vaccine?
Okay, so But Why started with the mask, first of all, because a lot of my preschooler children who never saw, usually when they wear masks, we always thought about boogeyman or robbers and, things which is not normal. So now when they start wearing the mask, they got scared. They get so afraid to, even the parents wearing the mask, they have to pull them off of it because the kids can't see that wearing the mask. So since we have a preschool, we started saying, but why do I have to wear a mask as a social story so that children will be at ease? Why do we have to wear a mask? It's not about the bad things, it's about good things, so to prevent getting it. Along the series, we started again some of the situation happening with the vaccination. 50% of Americans, 50% in the world also have a question about the vaccine, which is created so fast, so they are reluctant to move forward with the vaccination. They wait and see what happens with others, then they want to join. So that's another reason why we said, but why do I have to vaccinate it? Past history had a bad experiences, but overall vaccination was a very, very important. Because of that, we saved a lot of people, polio and the smallpox, all of this. There are few side effects, but overall, a lot of people's lives has been saved. So that's the reason why we wanted to educate the children. They shouldn't think, going to the doctor being a bad thing. So we educate the children first. So then they are calmer. Then the parents started to move forward with that, because I seen in teenage population they are volunteering to be vaccinated rather than parents are against it. They want to socialize. They want to go out. So the only way they can do it by vaccinated. So that's why we wrote the but why do I have to get vaccinated?
Yeah. Spencer, Susan brings up a good point. A lot of the hesitancy about the vaccines coming from the older generation.
I can certainly relate to that, having people from all across the political divide in my family. One of my uncles shamed his daughter, who's a young woman, for getting vaccinated, and she, being someone with a medical background, insisted upon it. So again, in my opinion, I think we don't ask questions when we get vaccinated for, say, measles or rubella or all these scary diseases that we've since eradicated. And I don't want to get too political with this, but it is a shame that people are kind of using this as a way to divide each other. Ultimately, we're all just trying to protect ourselves and our families.
Yeah, you're right. It has been used as a political weapon, I think, and I think especially here in the United States. I don't know about around the world, but certainly here in the United States, it seems to be really politicized, and I think that's a real tragedy.
Yeah. I think we all.
But also recently, because of the autism hikes in the autism population, so parents are so worried about those, because then, of course, after they found out mercury is also, they removed the mercury and all this. So now it become more safer and safer. But all those negative things what happen shadows the good things, So I understand parent perspective, even though some of them are very, very cautious about it. It's good to be cautious, but at the same time, you need to look at it, how many lives it's been saved. So, we need to address both sides of the parents, saying that, yes, even, some of the cultural background, like African American area, they don't want to get vaccinated until everybody get vaccinated because they had a bad experience, sickle cell anemia, all that happened. So they still always doubt the government, but, sometimes it is righteously they're doing it, but now we passed that. We are in 21st century, so we shouldn't be worrying about a lot of things, so we have to make sure everything's in place.
Well, one thing I can say is that I am just recovering from COVID, and because of the vaccine, my symptoms are very mild. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I've been responsible and been isolating and wearing a mask around my son. But because I kind of stayed up on my boosters, it didn't really affect me that much. I never lost my sense of taste or smell. I never developed any type of lung issues. And so I kind of count myself lucky for having the access to modern medicine to kind of avoid that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Dr. Susan, you mentioned earlier that some of the hesitancy has come about because of how quickly this particular vaccine was developed. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So a lot of my parents, I deal with special need children. I have like 200 clients of special need parents and then the children and also preschoolers. So the vaccination came about so quickly. So they are worried to vaccinate the children and teenagers and all that. But then I have to explain to them, think about it. When we started vaccinating, they are only 60 and above. So we used that population first. Then second batch went on from 40, 50 to 60 years old. Then the third batch is from the 30 on, because during that time, whatever the difficulties they faced, they started to correct it, right? They did not force young children or the teenage population to get vaccinated. They only requested all the elders who have other complications started to vaccinate. So they did it very methodically, and so that you have to give a very great credit to it, because they started off with the elders and then they started to move down. So as they go down, they started to take off, like Johnson had a lot of side effects, some of them, so a lot of things they started to correct those errors, or, perfect the formulas, whatever you might say. Then they started to come to the teenage population. The very touchy subject is to parents who have autism children. They are always going to be very reluctant in getting the vaccinators 5 and below. Mm-hmm. So those are the population is very much kind of wait and see, and they don't want to do it because some of the vaccination they did for the children 3 and above, they stopped talking. Some of the issue in certain vaccination affected their brain cells or whatever. Is some belief, so we that's the reason why a lot of parents are reluctant to vaccinate the youngest ones, 0 to 5, but that is, if you look at it objectively, you can see and they're concerned and we appreciate it, but instead of shaming them, we should have said, yeah, I agree, but still in the end you might have to do it, because some of them they have to travel, so they have no choice. Then they started to vaccinate. Yeah. But if they don't travel, then they're not required to vaccinate. So that's the reason why a lot of them are reluctant in certain areas.
And of course there has been the number of kids who have been diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum has really exploded. But from my understanding, it's because our understanding of autism has grown as opposed to the actual number of kids. So there's probably always been the same percentage of kids on the spectrum. We just didn't realize it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is true. And also we have to give credit to Kennedy, the Senator Kennedy, who put a lot of effort in cleaning up those certain vaccination. They removed the mercury and all that. So it is much more safer than before. Yes, before, probably all of us would have diagnosed as hyperactive children, but we didn't. Those days it was said like children are going to be, boys going to be climbing all over the place. It's natural, cut down the sugar. But now everybody get diagnosed with the hyperactive disorders and they're getting medicated. They're much more aware of very, very early stages. You're absolutely right. Probably 80% of us, all of us had some kind of autism-like syndromes or hyperactive disorders. At that time, nobody paid too much attention. After 1990, everything, over blown. Mm-hmm. And it was very well diagnosed. They don't want to call intellectually challenged anymore. Even those children are, now parents are fighting to get autism as a diagnosis rather than intellectually challenged, so it's becoming more financially, helpful for the parents who are struggling to keep up with the children, so children's needs.
Uh-huh. Spencer, I'm really happy that you are better and that your experience, your recent experience with COVID was much milder than what we were seeing when the pandemic started. I also came down with COVID at the end of May, and again, it was I had a couple of sniffles, and I wasn't really sick at all. But I think that's one of the things that is causing some of the concern. You know, when the vaccine was first introduced to us, it's like, take this vaccine, you'll be fine. Take the second booster, you'll be even more, fine. And then it's like that the message changed a little bit. It's like, well, we didn't say you wouldn't get it. We said it would be less severe. And do you think part of the hesitancy to really comply comes with the fact that the messaging has changed so much? At first it was, you don't need a mask, then you need a mask. And what's the story today? It seems to be always changing.
One thing is, I think that's the thing about science. Science is about making mistakes. And like, I know as you develop, ultimately, I don't think any of these public health professionals are are trying to do harm. They're doing the best they can with with a tough situation. In the beginning, it was a very scary time. My wife was pregnant during COVID, during the early days of it. And so we were very isolated because we didn't want to risk the pregnancy, which was very hard for us to achieve in the first place. So from a personal perspective, we were fairly paranoid just for what I think is good reason. And I know, unfortunately, I believe in science. Our whole, our book is based on science. All our education, our entire series is kind of STEM based. So for me, I put my faith in, the good doctors and people much smarter than me who are able to kind of take the knowledge they have. And while you make mistakes along the way, I don't think there was any ill intent at any point. And I'm grateful for the fact that, again, as you mentioned, you and I, the symptoms weren't severe. And while I'm disappointed and it's been frustrating that I lost a week of my life, I'm pretty healthy. I don't expect any long COVID symptoms, and I'm going to be able to continue on with my life.
Excellent. Good to hear. I'm curious, how did Spencer in Los Angeles connect with Susan in India to create this book?
No, I'm actually U.S. citizen. I live in Los Angeles for 40 years.
Well, that makes much more sense.
Yeah. I'm just visiting my dad. He's not well, so I'm just visiting him to make sure he's okay. He had a surgery, so that's why I'm here. But of course, I am from India, so we came about. So Spencer, you can tell the story how we met.
Absolutely. Well, so my background is in children's television, and one of my colleagues' children attended Susan's preschool. And Susan was working on a different project, not the But Why series, but they were working on a preschool series, like a kind of STEM-based preschool series, and needed some help with development. So I came aboard, just got very impressed with. I always like to work with people who are smarter than me, and Susan is far smarter than me. And we were working with a number of other educators on this series, and the chance to kind of really kind of spread the word with that other project. But then when But Why came about, I jumped to the reason because we were all kind of in that confusing era of we need answers, but we don't have them. And so when we're having small children around, we want to be able to kind of answer them as best we can.
Yeah.
And so it was Susan's idea. And I was like, that's such a good idea, Susan, let's do this. And so it's really, I would all credit goes to Susan for having the vision.
Yeah. No, the children who make me think and then ask questions. My preschool children and special need children, they're much more reality in face with them than adults. They come up with always, but why do I have to do this? But why? Why should, that is a constant question. And of course, Spencer's son going to ask such questions also. He's just going to turn in 2 years, 1.5. So that's the first thing they ask, but why? Go to your room, but why? Eat food, but why? So this is a constant question. And also parents were struggling. how to explain wearing the mask. Some of my parents came and said we were donating the books to them. They were saying, once the child read the book, 3 or 4 years old, she was very much into, she was not scared. Before, she thought it's a boogeyman. Even her dad wearing the mask scared her. Actually, both of them are psychologists. So they were struggling how to explain to the children. That's why, but why came about. I said, it's a common question, and we wanted to, and I'm very blessed, Spencer being very kind to me, but, he is very bright. I have Jamie. All my partners are very good in their area. I have Dr. Helen Kim. She is a curriculum expert on it. And we have John Sapico, who is a legal mind. And along with Tiffany Donaldson, they both are legal mind. And Jamie Dogum is one of my computer wizard. And Christopher Foley is another parent of mine who's also a director, editor, which, they all, they found my ideas really viable. They liked it because I've been having this to be written, but I wanted to find the right ingredient as a partners, as a authors. So it is simplify rather than too many words. Children want very little words. And it's almost like reading the Bill of Rights 10. For me, second language speaker, very simple sentences. Don't give me complicated. Just tell me exactly what happens. The same model, we created book. It is very straightforward, very truthful. It is scary, but at the same time, children understand a lot of visual rather than a lot of words, So the words confuses them.
Yeah.
Because like you said, wear the mask, don't wear the mask, don't go outside. If you go outside, you're going to this. So it is confusing for population, some of the population, younger generation. They didn't know which is right, and they start disbelieving everything. And that's one of the things we need to keep consistency. Yes, science is so that's why we introduced STEM. Okay, you can even check your own data, right? Like you can check it to see is the germs alive in everywhere. Yes, it is alive. So they can check it with a microscope and all that. So that's how we started off with, going through this process. But why?
Yeah. Fascinating. Spencer, you mentioned that you have a background in children's television. Any thoughts of turning the But Why series into an animated series?
Yeah, I think we'd love to do that. But why we're starting off with a COVID series, but our plan is to kind of at least from a book perspective, we're planning to kind of expand the brand into kind of answering the STEM-based answers to the But Why to kind of more evergreen stuff related to children's lives, whether it's bedtime, brushing your teeth, etc. So yeah, that's kind of the long-term goal right now. We just kind of want to get the books out just because right now, certainly with the COVID stuff, we need to get those answers out quickly, and television, especially animated television, takes a very long time to produce. And so right now we're just trying to fill in the gaps for parents. But you read our mind. We have a grand vision to kind of turn this into a brand.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. In the meantime, Susan, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about the But Why season. Is there a series? I'm sorry. Is there a place where folks can go to learn?
Yes, there in Amazon we are selling it. Spencer, we have a web page. Is Jamie there?
No, Jamie's not here, but it's butwhy.tech. So butwhy.tech. It is our website, which has not only where you can order the book, but also has helpful answers and games and kind of ways to kind of engage children. It's a very kid-friendly, parent-friendly book. Website.
Awesome. We've had a really a fun but also informative conversation with the authors of But Why Do I Have to Have a Vaccine? Dr. Susan Kumar and Spencer Walker. My friends, thank you so much for spending time with me.
Thanks so much for your time, Jed. It's really, really nice to kind of get the word out.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Glenda Armand. She'll be here to celebrate black-eyed peas and hoghead cheese. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, please be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page to find out how you can be a guest here on the podcast, to find out how you can submit your book to our Certified Great Read panel, and to find out about our monthly promotion program. We can celebrate your book through commercials here on the podcast, through messages to our 100,000 plus social media followers, to have your book displayed on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards, and to have your book with us live at one of the live events we'll be participating in. In October 2022, we'll be at the largest children's book event in North America, the Orange County Children's Book Festival, and we would love to display your book there with us. Be sure to check it out today, readingwithyourkids.com. We want to thank the folks who helped make today's show so wonderful. Chris, we want to start by thanking our guests, Dr. Susan Kumar and Spencer Walker. Please be sure to check out their But Why series. Also want to thank our sponsors, Linda Cutting. Please be sure to check out her beautiful book, A is for Always. Also want to thank our friend Sarah Belisa Tucker. Be sure to check out The Adventures of Harry and Friends. My team, I think they deserve a big thank you. Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Mirabella Q. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.